Hello there, Nick again. Are you having difficulty getting people onto your side? Do you find yourself locked in disagreement and never seem to get to a point where you can have constructive dialogue with people with which you disagree? Do you actually care about trying to resolve and tackle some of today's complex problems and be less concerned about thinking that you've won the argument? I'm going to take some time to show you a concept that illustrates how it is often that the way we set up a conversation is what leads us to an impasse and therefore unable to tackle the complex problems of our day. My goal is to show you that with few exceptions, we all want to make the world a better place. But too often we enter conversations so imbued with the belief that we're right, that we disregard or discount entirely the perspective of the people with which we are disagreeing. This is a graph of one's degree of advocacy, how strenuously you support your issue, and social space, how much space you allow the other person to have their beliefs. This is a graph of someone who has a great deal, a high degree of issue advocacy. When we talk with our adversaries, many of us use a lot of force behind our words, and we don't really give the other person a lot of space with which to hold their views. When we do that, the peak of our advocacy is very far on the right of this graph. You leave very little social space for your adversary. And while many of you think that's a good thing, particularly if you find that other perspective to be onerous or really downright dangerous, I'm here to tell you that I would contend that that is hurting your cause. Because we all know if you confine the same amount of stuff into smaller and smaller spaces, the pressure goes up. And therefore, the force at which people are pushing back at what you're doing is ever more increasing. The more you try to hamper someone by trying to squeeze them into a smaller place, the more you are actually empowering them, not harming them. Rather, wouldn't it be better to open our hearts to the possibility that the other side might actually have a point? Some of us cast our adversaries as villains rather than potential partners in what we're trying to accomplish. This never works, and what it does is it leaves us deadlocked around issues, while combined with the increasing coarsening of how we speak to other people, it erodes the social trust that's required to tackle these problems in the future. So the more you try and beat up the other side, the less we will ever be able to tackle these problems. This pattern, if allowed to operate, almost ensures that tomorrow will be worse than today. I'm a person with very strong opinions. Like everyone, I find it tempting to indulge myself that I might be right about everything, I have all the answers, but I have learned through the years that I have a choice. I could be right, meaning sanctimoniously judging everybody I disagree with to be wrong, or I can be effective. I can't be both. A good leader doesn't have the luxury of being right when problems need to be solved. Bad leaders can engage in moral preening all day long, but things will never get better. I try my best to be the former. In any issue, you have a thesis, your perspective, the antithesis, their perspective, and the synthesis. The combining of both of these concepts, your side and their side, into something that encompasses and integrates the advantages and perspectives of both. Synthesis is the basis upon which creative and long-lasting solutions can emerge. But we will never get to a point of synthesis if we unfairly characterize the other side, and we don't engage with them in the spirit of generosity, patience, and respect. I've already discussed why having a high degree of issue advocacy is not productive to making good conversations. But let's talk about this more from an influencer perspective, about how you are being perceived by other people. This is a neutral degree of issue advocacy. Now, I'm not sure where you're coming from, but when you first enter in a new topic that you are not familiar with, we all should be adopting this one. We should never come with preconceived notions about what's right, what's wrong, and how to proceed. When you come with a high degree of issue advocacy, you really are in danger of treating the bystanders, people who haven't formed an opinion yet or haven't taken a side, very poorly. These people are still learning. They could potentially be partners going forward with you, or maybe they don't have a vested opinion on this particular issue. But if you are a breath away from total advocacy, as shown on the previous graph, when you look over your shoulder and you look at the folks who are in the center, in the neutral position, they look like they're on the antagonism situation. And that's not true. You treat them as antagonists, and therefore they react as if they are under fire. These people could be brought to your side if you treated them with respect and understanding, but you put them into the warring camp by default. Congratulations, you just made another enemy. Influence is a game of small wins, and you've just participated in a losing game. So far, we see what happens when a high-degree person interacts with someone of a neutral position, but that's not the only one. If both you and the person you're disagreeing with are both in a mode of having very high degree of issue advocacy, well, then those who are onlookers, seeing both of you, will say it's a curse of both your houses. They see a food fight. No one is willing to compromise. No side is honest, fair, or being reasonable at all. These are like two spoiled 3-year-olds fighting over toys. Adults do not engage in this kind of behavior, and we will tune you out. When they have the opportunity, possibly, we'll take action to get rid of those folks, so the grown-ups can start having a conversation yet again. Congress in particular has been subject to this curse on both your houses phenomenon for several years. It has led to dramatic political disengagement, cynicism, and a growing disdain for political institutions in the United States. Most people no longer view government as an effective means for addressing social problems. Indeed, many see politicians as hell-bent on exacerbating them. Now, same point. Not everybody who you're going to disagree with is going to be matching your degree of issue advocacy. What if you find someone who's not quite as committed to their cause, or doesn't provide space for the other side? The person who can appreciate nuance across controversy, or appears to be less ideological or less willing to ostracize the others, will win converts, because they seem to be more reasonable than others do. Here is a lesson for people on any side of the political spectrum. If you find yourself appalled by certain happenings in the world right now, and many people around you seem to be siding with the ones who appall you, you should realize at least some of those people are looking at your issue and making the calculation that they are more reasonable than you are. I'll reiterate. They are more disturbed by you than whoever is disturbing you. Some of you might be chucking that up to ignorance or a moral deficiency of some type. but you might want to at least consider the possibility that you might be mistaken. It is clear that a high degree of advocacy is usually unproductive, but we still want to make a positive impact in the world. So how do we square the circle? How do we find a productive way to engage on our issues that we care about while still advocating our position in a way that's going to lend itself to positive influence? I would encourage you to think 2/3. I would never dissuade you from advocating for what you think is right. All I would ask that you do is keep your heart open to the perspectives of others, your head open to consider the arguments of others, and be humble enough to appreciate the potential that you might be mistaken about certain things. This is the degree of advocacy that I would recommend for you. Think 2/3. If you advocate this way, you will still have a great deal of energy behind your words, advocating for the positions and the issues that you are concerned about, but you will have the benefit of also allowing people with whom you disagree a chance to breathe and perhaps provide a level of psychological safety which will invite them to collaborate you on mutually satisfying solutions. Remember, the vast majority of us are good people trying to make the world a better place. The way we carry ourselves as we go about striving for whatever we believe is right is often the measure by which we actually do. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this to be informative and helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.